So, hello and welcome to the webinar. Buonasera e benvenuti al nostro webinar. Questo pomeriggio parleremo di digital e le competenze digitali per l'insegnante. Questo webinar lo facciamo un po' in inglese, some parts will be in English e alcune parti saranno anche in italiano. Noi vogliamo che magari se avete delle domande e volete scriverle nel chat, potete scrivere sia in inglese o anche in italiano, come preferite. Io sono Sara e questo pomeriggio sono insieme a Fabio Loi.
Buonasera, buonasera a tutti.
Così facciamo un po' in inglese e un po' in italiano. Guess who's doing the English? Okay, so we'd like to start by reminding you of the topic. Questo topic abbiamo scelto perché in questo momento in Italia c'è molto enfasi sulle competenze per l'insegnante, però c'è una grossa mancanza della possibilità di fare aggiornamento. Così con questo webinar cerchiamo di darvi alcuni spunti di aggiornamento e alcune importanti guide delle attività pratiche e un po' di metodologia anche. A questo punto chiedo a Fabio di magari presentarsi, perché io sono Sara e sono ex insegnante, ora mi occupo della formazione di insegnante e lavoro insieme alla squadra a Bologna. Noi siamo in Cambridge Assessment English e noi magari siamo conosciuti per l'esame di inglese il tipo il B1 Preliminary, B2 First, C1 Advanced, C2 Proficiency, però facciamo anche una parte molto importante che è l'aggiornamento dell'insegnante. Fabio invece, il mio collega.
Sì, io mi occupo dei rapporti con le scuole nell'Italia nord-ovest e ho passato esperienze come formatore e come esperto di e-learning.
Ok, grazie Fabio. Allora, noi siamo a Bologna e saremo curiosi a sapere dove siete voi. Se durante questa parte qui volete scrivere da dove state guardando questo webinar, saremo molto interessati di sapere dove siete. Allora, a questo punto gli chiedo alla regia di spengere la videocamera and I will start to speak in English. Thank you. So, we're going to focus on the digital teacher and the competencies that a teacher needs to gain to feel competent in the field of digital. As I said, I'm Sarah Ellis, and this is Fabio Lo next to me, Loi. And together with us in the same room, we have Roberto Foleo is our marketing manager, and he is here to support behind the scenes. So we're very grateful to him as well. So, to start off with, I think it goes without saying that in life in general, the way we work, the way we do our shopping, the way we watch television, the way we study has been changed enormously and is changing continually because of digital. And it's for that reason that we've chosen this topic. Now, I have to start with a confession. And the confession is, this is the first computer I ever used. Now, I wonder how many people recognized this computer. It's an Apple Mac. And many years ago, the computers had no color. They were just green. The screens were green. And this was the first computer I used. I didn't even know how to turn it on. So the reason I'm telling you this is that I'm self-taught. I believe passionately in the importance of digital and of teachers having the opportunity to develop the skills they need to be confident in the classroom and outside the classroom. So I'd like to share some of that journey with you. And we hope that this webinar will give you lots of ideas that will help you move out of your comfort zone. Because I think when you start with digital, or even when you're using digital regularly, I think it's very important that you just go outside that comfort zone and try things that are new. And this expression here summarizes it all for me. If you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you've always got. In other words, if you keep teaching the same way that you've always taught for the last however many years you have been teaching, then nothing will change. You won't develop as a teacher, and obviously for your students. So digital is a great opportunity, and I think many of us have to take the responsibility to make sure that we get the professional development we need to bring us up to date with what's happening outside. So in this brief webinar, what we're going to do is look at digital tools and the context for using digital tools and resources in and beyond the classroom. We're going to introduce you to the Cambridge Assessment English Digital Framework for teachers. And this is a fantastic framework which will provide a very clear guide for professional development with lots of ideas. And of course, very important to say, it's free. We will also, during the webinar, introduce you to some digital resources and hopefully some ideas that you can use in your context and in your classroom. During the webinar, we'd like you to perhaps have ready, if you can, a mobile device, as well as whatever you're watching us on now, because you may be able to try out some of the sites that we give you and some of the activities that we show you. I will say that as all the activities I'm showing you are available as free resources, and so they do have a limit of how many people you can have online at once. Usually that's not a problem if you're in a classroom, but maybe today, if there are lots of people, it'll be the fastest finger that is able to use the app, but maybe not everybody. So please bear with us. We want to illustrate the options that you have. So if we look at the context of of learning and how things are changing, I'm sure all of you, or many of you who go into class in the morning, may find this scene. Would you like to tell me if that's true? Is your classroom like this? Just type in the chat box if this is the kind of thing you find when you arrive at school and you go into your classroom. I think teenagers, youngsters are obviously connected most of the time now, and research says that in some parts of the world, people are going online as many times as 150 in one day to check their phone or check their email. And one of the things that people say is that young people are perhaps advantaged because they're growing up with digital, and that perhaps teachers are considered digital immigrants because they didn't grow up with it and are having to having to learn it. But actually, in my opinion, that isn't the real problem. The real problem is the digital divide. And I think as teachers, we do need to remember that there is a difference of access to the internet. Not everybody has a digital device. And if we think about our schools, some schools have better internet than others, and some have computers and some don't. So this is an extra challenge that we have to add to our collection as teachers. But don't let us put that off, because I think we must try and experiment. And so I'd like to ask you to think about your digital experience and your attitude towards technology by giving you a gap fill. So here we have learning with technology and digital resources is, and of course what I'd like you to do is finish the sentence with an appropriate word or words. But as we're talking digital, I'd like to show you the first of the digital resources I'd like to suggest, which is called Answer Garden. This is a free resource, and you can create the opportunity for some quick feedback like this example here. Now, what I'd like you to do is, if you can go to answergarden.ch/530-151, or if you're lucky or already have a QR code reader, if you've downloaded that perhaps onto your phone, you can read this QR code and go directly to the website. Now, I must say, one of the things, the most useful things, if you don't already have it, is to download a QR code reader. Maybe not now, but if you haven't got one after the session, I do recommend that you do find one that works for you. There are lots of free ones that work very well, and it means that you can go directly to a website instead of having to worry about writing the long link. So if you can go to that, what I'm going to do is try a little experiment. If you write your word and tap it in, so Fabio is going to be my guinea pig over here, so we can check that it's working. And so if you add your ideas, I will take you out and into the internet. We'll just see if that works. To my answer garden, and I'm going to refresh it. Let's see if it works. It may not work because there's a lot of people online. However, it's not a problem. There we go. It's working. And you will see on the screen contributions from different people. And as I refresh the screen, wow, that's great. Fantastic. You can see that more and more contributions are coming in. And you can also see that some of the words are bigger than others. And of course, that's because where the word is bigger, it means more than one person has written the word. So here we're developing a nice word cloud. This would be a great start to a discussion about the topic. And I think you can imagine how you could create an answer garden for your own class. And you can see it's still growing, very exciting. Wow, super. And it's live. And of course, in normal situations, I could never get your feedback in the same way as using an app like this. So it just keeps growing. So I hope you can see that's a potential tool that you might be able to use. So we'll just go back to the presentation. And one of the things that I will confess to you is that when I'm learning a new app, I usually use my portable as the teacher, and I use my phone as a student, so that I can experiment in the two modes and check it works, and also to see how to interact between how the app works. So I think it's a good thing. So here I have plan B. Always when I'm using digital, I have a plan B. We have to be honest that technology is not always 100% dependable. So I have a screenshot of, just in case it didn't work in real time. But as you saw, it's very similar, but ours worked. Now I have a question for you. This was the original exercise. And of course, I could just elicit some sentences from the class. Now, for example, more effective, more interesting, more difficult, more expensive, etc. But if you think about the difference between the activity for those of you who were able to try out Answer Garden and me eliciting in class, in front of the class, what's the biggest difference in terms of involvement? As Maria has just pointed out, yes, it's more engaging if you can use an app in this context. Absolutely, I see other people are saying the same thing. So just for a moment, I think it's useful to think about how digital is changing our lives. And I start from 1993, when, including in my computer here, we have an Intel microprocessor. And since then, if we look at all these areas in our lives, think about how digital is changing how we do things. I think there is such a long list that we could mention. And if you think about each one, for example, with TV and video, I don't know what Fabio would say. Can you think of one of the changes of digital that's happening with TV? Think of one of the channels that people watch.
Beh, assolutamente. Tutti i nuovi provider di contenuti digitali on demand, Netflix soprattutto, ma la stessa Sky, che comunque grazie al digitale offrono sempre più contenuti on demand. Posso vedere il film, mio film preferito quando voglio, nell'orario in cui voglio.
That's true. What about photography? What would you say about photography?
Beh, la fotografia digitale consente di fare cose che prima erano impossibili, dalle cose banali come le foto. Una frase molto carina che mi è piaciuta di un fotografo: quando le fotografie si stampavano costavano 1000 lire l'una, nessuno si sarebbe mai sognato di fotografare il piatto degli antipasti.
It's true. Yes.
Oppure nuovi filtri, la condivisione delle fotografie con sistemi come Flickr, ad esempio.
So it's a great topic for discussion, and obviously for speaking practice, as well as obviously thinking about how digital is changing us. This screenshot just shows a few of the areas that, of course, are making such a difference in our own lives. And I think many teachers may be very digital outside classroom and perhaps are reluctant to transfer to their lessons. But if we think about the class, how is that changing? Does your classroom look like this? I wonder. So my question is, should classrooms today be the same as they were when we went to school? Now, I appreciate some people are younger in the audience than me, but fundamentally, classrooms are very similar today as they were before. Now, this perhaps is an extreme picture, but if I ask Fabio about the interazione at school, is it similar?
Sì, forse tranne la bacchetta, poi per il resto ci siamo ancora abbastanza.
So our school system, in a sense, is continuing to be fairly traditional. And of course, that has an impact on why we need to think about changing the model. The model comes from an industrial era, if you like, when everybody basically would sit in a row and learn the same things, and preferably at the same pace, because that's what the world required at that time. But if we think about the skills that our students need now and the skills that they needed before, of course, they're different, and they're increasingly more difficult. I think we just lost some audio. I think we come back again. Sorry about the audio. So yes, so I was just saying that people like Sugata Mitra, he's the man who had a project in India, and put computers in the wall, and students went and used them and learned how to use them themselves. But people like him are beginning to question traditional information transfer education, and the question, is knowing obsolete? Do we need to know information in the same way as we did in the past? Now, that's a different webinar. We're not going to completely answer that question. And I do think learning facts and information is still important. However, I think things like Google are changing the skills that our students need, and they need to be looking at how to find information, to be able to evaluate information, actually. So if you like, new skills. So, really, the skills that we need for the new always connected society are the 4 C's: the critical thinking, creativity and collaboration, and communication, which also can be developed at the same time as developing our students' digital skills. Of course, 21st century skills are very much a part of the future and what we need to be doing at school. We seem to be having some problems with the audio. Okay, so in education in general, there are lots of new ideas coming up. And if we think about it, there are things like blended learning, mobile learning, the flipped classroom, terms that we hear a lot these days. We haven't got time to discuss them all in detail now, but I think they all have in common is some connection with digital. And so I think slowly, as teachers, these are areas we need to explore. Fundamentally, digital is giving us new opportunities and new ways to teach, to learn, and to do assessment. And I think it's our duty to embrace those and to think about how to exploit it. Now, one of the problems, of course, is how. And BYOD, which I'm sure you know what that stands for, and I see someone writing very quickly in the chat box. Well done, Mario. That's bring your own device, absolutely. And of course, in Italy, this is a challenge because in some schools, you may be allowed to use your own device in your class and some not. So again, this is part of the challenge. If you can't use computers in your lesson, you may be able to give students homework that use certain activities. So we, again, looking at bring your own device will vary depending on where you are. Can you write in the chat box if you can use devices in your lessons in your school? Is there a policy? Okay, so I can see Ida says yes, and so does Maria. It's good news because I think there is an opening. Some people can't. Graziano said he's not able to, and Anna is mentioning that she can. So, of course, there's a variety of situations around the country. So, ideally, we have to recognize that most young people are attached to some kind of device for a lot of the time. So isn't it better to use the device rather than to fight against it? So there may be times when you actually have a policy to use devices for part of the lesson, some of the lessons, etc. But one of the things I do really believe in is that using digital device needs to become a normal thing. So that going to the computer classroom once a month may not be the answer to integrate digital. So again, I appreciate it will depend on your circumstances. Not everyone is lucky enough to have a classroom that looks like this. This is a classroom in the UK where they're experimenting with what are called touch tables, and these are encouraging collaboration and communication among students. You can see it in practice. It's fantastic. So let's just say that we think educational technology and digital resources are essential, not optional. I've got two pictures here. And if you look at them, what's the difference between the two pictures? If we think about the position of the teacher in picture one, where are they standing? Exactly, at the front. Picture two, where are they standing? At the front. Now, although we talk about technology a lot, and many people may have had an interactive whiteboard, but not everybody, the way people are using technology is fundamentally not changing, because what we need to look at is new pedagogy and new approaches to the role of the teacher. And at the moment, we have a lecture model which is learning as knowledge to be absorbed, whereas and the teacher is in control. And if you like, this kind of situation is far better suited for facts rather than skills. What we need to move towards is a much more active learning model where students are working in groups and the role of the teacher changes to being a facilitator. Now, as many teachers are not used to being facilitators, this does need a change of the teaching paradigm and the focus on being more student-centered learning, making sure that learning is by doing as a kinesthetic learner, I really appreciate that when I do things, I learn them better, and how I'm sure that's the case for many students, if not all. Authentic tasks, making sure it's worthwhile doing it. It encourages collaboration. And while you're acquiring a skill, you're also acquiring knowledge. So it's knowledge and skill rather than just knowledge. So our classrooms end up being much more engaging, much more interactive, and hopefully learning will be deeper. And of course, more project learning, more learning in groups, and maybe not everybody will have a device. It may be sharing device. In fact, that will, of course, encourage collaboration in itself. There are some barriers to change, however, and I like this picture, it makes me laugh, but there are some. The kind of barriers to change are, of course, the expense of technology. I think there are also expectations. Think of parents' expectations who perhaps learned in a particular way and would expect to learn in a similar way. And also, if you think about our school system and the way that people get their grades, while we continue to grade in a particular way which emphasizes information transfer, then why would you want to change? And perhaps one of the biggest barriers to change is actually teachers themselves. Perhaps they're worried about their job, or they're worried about the time it will take to acquire new skills. So there are some challenges ahead of us. The other challenge is that we tend to have teacher training. We do our degree, we finish our degree, we're trained as a teacher, off you go, teach, and that's it. But of course, we need to change that model to become much more about long life learning, continually developing professionally throughout your career, from a new teacher to a teacher near retirement, needs continually to be encouraged to continue to learn. Now, Cambridge English went to a conference in Spain a couple of years ago, a very important one called Innovate. And at the conference, they put a board in the room, and they asked this question: what digital skills do teachers need? Now, can I just stop for a moment and ask you to write a short answer to that in the chat box before I show you the answer that was most commonly written on the board. Okay, some answers are coming in. Obviously, some of the issues are technical, being able to be knowing something about how the Wi-Fi works, something about platforms would be useful, and some people are mentioning some things like Google Education, etc. Well, actually, I will thank you for those answers, and thank you for those answers. And the interesting thing was that what was written on the board was actually confidence was the skill that teachers need the most. Now, in a way, we laugh, but that's a significant word, because it would suggest that teachers don't get enough training and opportunity to grow their skills. So I think the biggest demand is to find out more about what do we mean by digital pedagogy. It's not just about using a whiteboard for the sake of using a whiteboard. For example, it's much more understanding what tools you're using, making choices thoughtfully, understanding the methodology behind them, and making your choice when not to use digital tools as well as to use. Because what we're not advocating is that you always use digital tools. There is a time and a place, and sometimes it's better not to use it. So we need to recognize that in our choices. And that's about evaluating the use of tools and knowing what works for when and why you're using it. So the questions for the teachers are, which to use, decide when and when not to use a digital device or a resource, and also how to use it. Somebody learning how to use them is an important part, having the confidence, evaluating which ones to use as well. So it's time for a question for you. Now, this is, I'm going to ask you about your favorite apps, but as I do it, I'm showing you another digital tool, which is called menti.com. And for those of you who can and would like to try it now as we speak, if you can go to www.menti.com, it will ask you to enter a code. Now, you don't need to sign up or anything like that at the moment. You would just enter the code, and Fabio's just checking it out for me here, and we'll see if that one's working. Now, I'm going to have to take you off screen, but don't worry, you will see on the website what the code is. So I'll just take you to menti.com. I'm just going to display it. Okay, so if you'd like to enter. Yeah, we're not getting anybody through there, so there's a little problem with the connection. But don't worry, because what you basically would get is I press that. Obviously, it's not working now. I press that and you would display which one of these is the winner. Again, it's a great pooling tool. You can write any kind of question. The website creates the code for you to use. So you just give that to your students and you would be able to use this for a poll. It's a really quick one to use. Probably when you've got a smaller class, it works better. But really, it's a fantastic free app, good for quick questions. Now, moving on to different apps and thinking about what you currently use, I show you the screen and I wonder if you just have a look at those, how many of those do you already know yourself? Which ones are you familiar with? So if you want to write it in the chat box, we can have a look at which ones people are already using. You may know some of them, you may not know any of them. Somebody said they use all of them, so that's very impressive. And Barbara's using Padlet, Deborah is using Padlet, Kahoot and Quizlet, and we have Flavia using Kahoot, Padlet and ThinkLink, great. And we have lots of people using Kahoot, Stefania, somebody said they're not using any of them yet. And several people have mentioned Padlet as a very useful tool. I have to say, I agree. Kahoot, if you're not familiar with, is very good for competitions. And Padlet is an online notice board, which is very good for sharing online and offline when you want to do activities. And later in the session, we'll show you where you can find out more information about that. And then we have Quizlet, one of my favorites for vocabulary development. Again, we'll show you a little bit more detail about that one and some lesson plans that you can use. Memrise is generally for vocabulary. Dubsmash is very good for karaoke. And ThinkLink is for multimedia work, so you can use film, sound, etc. Perhaps if you're doing a project or something like that. And we have Clear Speech is just an example of something for pronunciation. There are lots. Now, one of my favorite tools, which I think is growingly getting to be known much better by teachers in general, is Socrative. Socrative has a free version, and I use the free version often for lots of different kinds of quizzes and questionnaires. And I'm going to ask you to use it as a teacher. So my question to you is, what's your experience of looking for online tools to improve your teaching? And rather than ask you to just write it in the chat box, I'd like those of you who can to go to Socrative and to log in as a student. It's very important you log in as a student, otherwise it won't work. And you have to type in the room name, which it has automatically given me as the teacher. So that's Ellis 3636. And then you will be asked to join the room, and you can add your name or a nickname if you want to be secret. That's fine. And then you will have a series of questions which you can answer. And you choose the option which you think is best for you. So we'll just see if Fabio is able to log on. We've got a very slow connection today, so you may have a few issues, but we hope that at least you'll be able to take away the idea and put it into practice if you're not able to do it now. I think we're having a few connection problems here, but let me see if I have any luck with other people by going to my Socrative. Ah, we have, it's working, great. Now, if those of you can see on the screen now, we have a list of some of the people who are online now, who are answering the questions. So you may be able to see your name here. So that's fantastic, wonderful. And as you whiz through the questions, you might be thinking, oh, I don't agree with the answer. Don't worry, the questionnaire was designed to show you how the application works, more than to give you the right and wrong answer. So I can see some people answering still, that's great. Wow, Diana's being quick and she's got to the end very fast. But as you see, it allows me as a teacher to monitor everybody's contribution. Now, in this particular example, I have kept the name of the students, but I could choose to hide the name. So if you want to display the answers on the board or on the screen without embarrassing anybody or putting people in difficulty, you can decide to hide the names. As you see up here, show the names. So this is a fantastic resource. We could now decide, oh, I see that lots of people thought question 3 was true or false. We could use it as the beginning of a discussion. So as you see, it's a fantastic tool. So if you're not using it yet, do experiment with Socrative. So moving on fast to take you through that one. We've done that, so we'll move on to the next slide. This was the version which I could have shown you and just asked you to write A, B, or C in the chat box. Of course, that would have been much more difficult for me to monitor and less engaging for people to participate in. So I think there are different ways of doing a similar activity that can, thanks to digital, make it more engaging. Now, you might be thinking, oh, as a teacher, who's got time? How can I work this out? You know, I've got too much to do. Well, there are some really helpful ways to move ahead with your digital competencies, and the most important one that we want to introduce you to is the Digital Teacher. That's the digitalteacher.com. This is from Cambridge Assessment English. It's designed to help teachers look at their digital competencies and to extend beyond just knowing about apps, but having a much broader picture of what it means to be digital and the implications, the methodology, and ideas for application. So what you get are some knowledge and skills with tools. You get training for different parts of the component, and we'll have a look at the components in a moment. And you also get recognition for training. You can collect open digital badges to say that you have completed different parts of the training. The framework has 6 different categories and while we're not going to look at in detail, just to give you a quick overview, the first 3 categories, if you like, cover some of the broader areas. So we've got looking at the legal issues, looking at managing, using the what is digital citizenship? In the digital classroom, we look in detail at methodology and theory. And of course, we explore tools and resources. And for anyone who wants to improve their own language skills, this is also a place to do it. The third section, if you like, is the professional development section and encourages teachers to think about their own current level of experience, what tools they use, and to find out about new tools, etc. as well. The last part is actually to encourage you to become part of a professional community, and we'll have some suggestions how you can do that. The other 3 sections of the framework look at, if you like, at the teaching part, in the designing and delivering learning, and also in evaluation. In the designing learning, you're looking at lesson planning and course planning, sourcing and finding digital tools, and developing materials. In the second section, we look at using tools in the classroom, how you integrate that with your students, how you respond, etc. So extremely practical section. And the third section looks at evaluating progress using digital tools to help you with assessing learning and progress. So it's very broad and it gives you a big picture. You can start with a test. The test is free, and don't worry, you don't pass or fail, and nobody needs to know your result except you. But this is a very good way to start. You don't have to start here, but you can. Just a word of warning, if you do the test in one sitting, it could take you up to 50 minutes, but you can break the test down and do it in different parts. So you will be asked questions, and for each question, you'll be given 4 options. An A, B, C, and a D, and each question represents a different level in the framework. So, for example, A will look with the first question. Look, if you answer A, your level of awareness. B is understanding. C is habit, and D is mastery. So those 4 levels here give you an overview of the framework. Now, you might be surprised to know which level is the most common. Cambridge English is using this at a global level, and have been monitoring how teachers are getting on with the framework. And interestingly enough, 80% of teachers are at the level of awareness. So that suggests, again, the need for training and for a broader view of digital skills. Now, the framework takes you through the questions. You can see on the left the different phases, and each time you will be given 4 options for every question. You choose the option that suits you, go on to the next section, answer the questions, and choose the option, so that you build up your framework. It's your own profile for each level, each part of the framework. So you can see it here developing as a self-evaluation tool, so that you have an idea of your current competence in each area of the framework. Now, the framework also has fantastic resources, and the first section focuses on training, and in the training section you will get a topic area. So, for example, vocabulary, and this area will take you into lesson plans and training and ideas. The second section looks at different apps and different platforms and gives you an evaluation and a review. Quizlet, which we mentioned earlier, is an example of one of the apps which is reviewed here on the framework, on the platform. The third section is the blog. And the blog is very useful because you can sign up for free, and every 2 weeks they'll send you an idea or 2. In fact, I know this is something that Fabio is particularly interested in. I'm going to ask Fabio to say 1 or 2 things, because I know he uses it a lot in his training sessions.
Sì, dunque, allora nella sezione blog si possono trovare degli articoli che noi reputiamo molto interessanti, scritti da altri docenti che nel mondo usano le tecnologie digitali con i propri studenti. Nell'esempio riportato adesso sullo schermo, l'autrice affronta come gestire la distrazione digitale, e lo fa spiegando qual è la sua metodologia all'interno dell'articolo, e soprattutto mettendovi a disposizione nella parte destra un lesson plan con degli handout da dare ai vostri studenti. Quindi c'è un'attività legata a questo articolo che vi invito a leggere e a poi magari provare con i vostri studenti. È un'attività che serve trasversalmente sia per appunto capire come gestire la distrazione digitale, e sia anche per imparare nuovi vocaboli in inglese, e per poi fare una sorta di lezione tutta in inglese. L'attività proposta è per i livelli da B1, B2 in su, ma potete tranquillamente prendere la traccia e adeguarlo al livello dei vostri studenti. Quindi si può fare magari in italiano, se la vostra attenzione è sul la gestione della distrazione digitale, oppure si può fare in modo diverso con un livello di inglese più basso. Ovviamente, oltre al lesson plan, ci sono anche gli handouts da utilizzare con i vostri studenti. Non è richiesto tantissimo materiale, tantissima strumentazione per l'attività, semplicemente quella che si trova normalmente in classe e un PC con PowerPoint. Quindi provate e poi prendete spunto e elaborate in funzione della vostra esperienza e della vostra quotidianità.
And I think Fabio's made a very interesting point. Obviously, you can use the material in English or in Italian. And also, obviously, your colleagues who may not be teaching English may also find the digital teacher a useful tool. So if we look just briefly at the training units, you will see this is just an overview, but you basically have 25 minutes of training videos, but the good thing is the videos are short. So if you haven't got time to do a long session, you can just choose 5 minutes. You can choose 5 minutes when you're able to. You can choose 5 minutes whenever you have time, and you can also download the lesson plans and the product reviews. There is a video which you can see here, just a screenshot, and as you see, it's only 5 minutes, so you just get the concept, and you can mix and match, obviously, what you're interested in, and look at all of them, or just choose the ones that are of interest to you. The wonderful thing is that you get complete lesson plans for some of the things. This is a lesson plan for B1, looking at vocabulary to describe feelings. You will get the lesson aims, you'll get the lesson material, and also integrated into the lesson material will be some example of an app. And this particular one, which is called Word Wall, is a fantastic resource, which if you haven't discovered yet, I think you'll find is very useful. We'll just have a quick look to see if I can see it on online. Let's have a look here. So we have it here. It's a bit slow, so it's coming here. It is. So this is Word Wall in action. The quiz has been made to accompany the lesson material, and you can start now. Obviously, you can't hear it, but there are sounds that go with the words as well. So the students will choose according to the picture, and the picture, of course, is the fastest finger. Interested, and then we go to the next one, and we've got the fastest finger is. Thank you, proud, okay, etc. So you can go through the vocabulary, and then if you want to, you can actually print a printable version, and also you can actually make it into a game, the same material into a game, and do it again, perhaps in another lesson or to revise. So the actual resource is very extensive. So we hope that you will find the digital teacher provides you with ideas. This is the material that accompanies the lesson. So you've got the focus on the vocabulary as well as the answers. So you're very well supported if you choose to use the material. There's my Plan B screenshot, just in case it didn't work. And of course, this is just to show you the enormous choice of activities that you can use using WordWall. .co, again, a free app. So now I'd like to ask Fabio to say a little bit about the digital framework, because again, he's using it a lot in his training. So this is the version.
Vabbè, il Digital Framework for Teachers semplicemente raccoglie tutte quelle che sono le competenze che secondo noi un docente che insegna con le tecnologie dovrebbe avere sostanzialmente. Questo è.
And this is if you like the what's it called, the mobile version.
Exactly.
The mobile version. So you can do it on the bus if you're not driving, of course, but if you're on the bus or on the train, you can do the questionnaires online.
Poi appunto c'è una pagina di Facebook alla quale potete iscrivervi e dove periodicamente arrivano dei suggerimenti su come utilizzare appunto le tecnologie digitali, accessibili ovviamente da qualsiasi device, ed è anche bello vedere le discussioni che nascono fra docenti sull'utilizzo e sui suggerimenti che arrivano in questo. Altre risorse, visto che quando si preparano molti studenti per il FIRST, ad esempio, una delle problematiche è la gestione del writing, Cambridge Assessment sta sviluppando, in collaborazione con una startup legata all'Università di Cambridge, che si occupa di riconoscimento testuale e di intelligenza artificiale, uno strumento che si chiama Write and Improve. È uno strumento ancora in fase beta, quindi ancora in fase di sviluppo, che consente agli studenti e ai docenti di sviluppare l'attività di writing. Lo strumento consente di registrarsi, di poter usare uno dei tanti tasks presenti, suddivisi per livello, beginner, quindi A1, A2, intermediate, B1, B2 e advanced, C1, C2, oltre alla sezione dedicata al test IELTS. Consente appunto di utilizzare uno di questi task. Lo studente può scrivere la propria risposta, sottoporla al sistema che per passaggi di raffinamento progressivi arriverà a dare un risultato che sia sicuramente migliore rispetto a quello precedente. Qui nelle schermate potete vedere un esempio. Write to your friend to tell them about the seasons. Scusate, sono senza occhiali. No, celebrate
seasons and how they celebrate each season in your country.
In your country, esatto. Lo studente può scrivere, il sistema, chiedo scusa, dà dei suggerimenti e come in questo caso lo studente, seguendo i suggerimenti, chiedo scusa, seguendo i suggerimenti può migliorare il proprio testo e sottoporlo ad una nuova verifica. Quindi l'idea è che dopo 2, 3, 4 passaggi il testo sia molto migliorato e a questo punto può essere sottoposto alla valutazione di un docente, che ovviamente dovrà fare una valutazione di più alto livello. Non si troverà il testo con tutti gli errori più comuni, da quelli più banali come la S alla terza persona singolare all'utilizzo degli aggettivi a, an, quando, come, però ovviamente questi errori saranno già stati corretti dal sistema. Il docente farà un'analisi di più alto livello sui contenuti, sulla forma, sulla sintassi. Un altro strumento molto interessante per la preparazione degli esami CAT Affairs, anzi Key Preliminary Affairs, come dovrò dire adesso in poi, si chiama Weekly, è uno strumento gratuito, anche questo in fase beta, consente una pianificazione didattica della preparazione agli esami. È sufficiente scegliere fra i 3 esami disponibili, quindi Key for Schools, Preliminary for Schools e Fair for Schools, indicare quante settimane potete dedicare alla preparazione dell'esame e poi indicare quante ore alla settimana, come in questo esempio, potete dedicare. Quindi inserendo i dati in questa schermata otterrete poi un piano didattico con tutta una serie di risorse digitali già pronte, quindi sarà sufficiente, come ad esempio qui nella Week 2, andare a cliccare su Writing e ci sarà l'attività già pronta in PDF da scaricare e da utilizzare con i vostri studenti. Quindi è un aiuto per chi prepara alle certificazioni e vuole pianificare le attività per essere pronti alla scadenza dell'attività, quindi pronti per l'esame. Oltre a questo, sul nostro sito ci sono 2 aree, Teaching English e Learning English, che contengono tutta una serie di ulteriori materiali digitali, ulteriori risorse digitali, che da utilizzare direttamente con i propri studenti.
And here we have a summary of the websites that we have been using during this session. We hope some of them will be new for you. We haven't mentioned WeSchool, but we invite you to explore WeSchool as a place that you can keep your resources. Again, a free platform, which we think you'll find interesting. So we come to the end of the time. We appreciate that you may have some questions for us. And we have Roberto on hand to help us with that. So we'll just see if you have any questions before we leave you. And obviously we hope that the digital teacher will make a difference to you and your teaching, and of course, ultimately to your students. So any questions before we leave you? Okay, people are asking about the lesson about feelings. We can send you the links maybe in the feedback to you. We now have your email, so we can send you the list of websites that I mentioned, plus the one you asked about, the one we illustrated from the digital teacher about feelings. Absolutely. Thank you very much for your positive feedback. We're very pleased to have been able to do this session with you today. We look forward to doing other sessions in the future. And thank you that people are asking about primary as well as secondary. We will be doing webinars for primary and secondary. So watch this space. And we look forward to seeing you again. And thank you very much indeed for joining us. So for all information, go to let's see, I've got a little website here for you. So to leave you with this site is that if you wish to find out more and explore it yourself, you go to www.thedigitalteacher.com and www.cambridgeenglish.org, also where you will find information about Cambridge Assessment English, about the exams, etc. as well. So thank you very much again, and thank you to Fabio.
Thank you, Sarah. Grazie a tutti per aver partecipato a questo webinar e visto che ci siamo, auguro buone feste a tutti.
Thank you very much. Happy Christmas.